Worked for the government, worked for the BBC, worked for a Norwegian supermarket, worked for an Israeli podcasting company. I've done a lot of random jobs, but I have had like a 25-year kind of history. So, it's not as bad as it sounds. However, I also wrote a book, Google Data Studio for Beginners. 1 week later, they basically rebranded it to Looker Studio. That is a Stadia controller which no one's ever heard of, and immediately after I bought it, they discontinued it. So me telling you about the future is probably the worst thing to listen to, but I'll happily answer any questions, and there's the Slido thing up there, or you can just raise your hand and shout at me. I'm pretty good at kind of listening. Currently, I work for Mirador Local, which is a listing company. It's a tool. It basically allows you to look at your Google My Business places, and if you've got a lot of locations around the world, it's a fantastic tool to help you. But don't worry, I'm not going to sell it too much. Okay, so it's 2024. And if you do a search for something, for some reason, I always pick on ramen. It's like my favorite search topic because A, I like ramen, and B, I like the way the search results are quite diverse. But you can pretty much pick any topic you want. And they kind of are so diverse nowadays. This means that you get the recipes, you get the everything. I mean, basically, if I kind of zoom in a bit, you quickly see you get the recipes, which you can click into and engage with. You click around, you get the Google My Business, which is what you need Mirador Local for, but again, I'm not selling it. And if you kind of carry on clicking down, you'll see people also asked. You'll see so much diversity in this page. And the other side of it is you'll also see things like related searches, which is what people are looking for afterwards. And all of this data is fantastic. There is so much data now. And the other side of it is that, no talk today can be done without talking about AI or SGE at any point. And if you type into Gemini, which is the new version of Bard, which is the SGE at the moment, where ramen or something like that, it'll give you like local places, it will give you information. But for some reason, we still look at SEO like it's this 10 blue links. This is the way we perceive SEO to be, and it's really not necessarily conducive to how we sort of report. And actually, what is kind of interesting is a lot of our reporting, internally, externally, to clients, to businesses, everything, has this kind of pie chart of direct being this crazy high percentage. And this, by the way, is taken from Google Analytics and loads of people's accounts, and direct always is this really high amount. And it doesn't mean what it says it means. I mean, if we ask Google what it means, it says that it's the referral to a website which has no origin, blah, 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 and it's basically people typing it in directly. If you look at the landing pages in direct, it's often a deep page which no one will ever type in www.yourbrand.com/categories/pages/whatever. So people aren't typing it in, but they're getting it to some other way. And this is one of these black holes in reporting that we don't seem to fully explain particularly well. In fact, it's really frustrating just how much of that slide is like 45% is direct. And the funny thing about it is I'm not the only person to kind of say that's a load of BS. Loads of people are also kind of going, let's solve the direct problem. Let's fix this direct problem. And it is a big problem. So, there's videos on the topic, there's everything, there's great articles. And basically, a lot of the time, if you go from any app to a website, or if you go from email into a website, or if you go across a lot of different places, you'll find out that this is all coming in direct. And again, I have to talk about AI. You can create a bookmarklet in AI in minutes, which is absolutely fantastic. And this bookmarklet, all it does is a bit of JavaScript which says, what is the previous page referrer? Now, the reason this is kind of interesting and important is the fact that when I click on a search result, it comes in and says the referrer was Google. It doesn't tell you the full string, which was the keywords. And those of us that are as old as Chris Simmons in the corner will remember that, at one point we used to have all of this information into analytics packages. Nowadays, you just know it's coming from Google. Now, Google kind of says if it's just google.com, that means it's Google organic. And if you've got google.com plus you've got parameters on that landing page, like the UTM parameters, you can then say it's a paid campaign or it's an email or something. So that's why we do UTM parameters. I won't talk too much about that because that's been covered by other talks that I've seen today and yesterday. But yeah, Google My Business, this is again an interesting thing. Like if I click into, oops, I clicked too fast. But there's a lot of bits and pieces on this where you see where it says like order online, directions, save, call. None of this goes into your analytics package. None of it is recorded anywhere normally back to clients. So there's this kind of big black hole in your data analytics of interactions which lead to conversions, which lead to engagement. You want to know all of this information. It's really, really important. The same with videos. In the Google search results, so much of it now is taken up with videos, and actually not just from Google, but sorry, not just from YouTube, but also TikTok. If you do a search on your mobile phone and you scroll down slightly, you'll see loads of short videos from TikTok. So there's a huge amount of engagement with your brand that just isn't coming into your actual website, especially not from Google. So if we talk about SEO and we talk about things like TikTok and YouTube, we don't talk about is TikTok a search engine? That's a whole nother debate, but we want to know how much of our videos are being seen. Is it performing in Google? And Twitter is also bringing in SERPs. So if you do a search, for instance, Ryanair, I came in on Ryanair, best airline ever. And if you do a search for it, you know, you get the Twitter account literally before anything else. So it's really important to kind of fully understand what the search results look like. Talk to your social media team about the fact that maybe if they talk about how good the product is, rather than just using a customer service channel, you'll be able to actually promote your website even more in the SERPs when people are scrolling through. And if there's news, you know, if you search for Apple, all you'll get is top results about what's happening with Apple, way before any other content. I mean, I actually did a quick look, and I typed in Kate, and I don't know about you guys, but everybody in England is obsessed with what has happened to Kate. There was a Photoshop picture of her, and we're all a bit like, has she gone? No, just the Brits. Okay. The other thing that's really interesting at the moment is Google Discover. That was a weird image to use, I know. But basically, it's this thing where if you've got an Android phone, you can slide across to the right, and there's a slide of kind of news about brands and things you're interested in. Mine's mainly VR at the moment because I'm a massive VR nerd. But there's so much stuff coming in. And if you click into that and click into a website, what is interesting is that comes up as direct. So again, all of this kind of black hole of information and analytics is definitely there. Again, what I found was if you click in from SGE or Google Gemini, you know, you can look at what the referrer is, and again, it's nothing. There is no referrer, which means it's going to be recorded as direct. Basically, we need to be smarter about all of the data sources that we have, because we are always reporting really badly. I say we, a lot of companies out there that I've kind of come in and worked with, we look at the reporting and it seems to be Google Analytics, and that's it. We have loads of data sources. We have Google Analytics with UTM parameters set up correctly. We have YouTube. We have Google My Business, which has an API that can be brought in using a tool called Mirador. We have Google Search Console, which also can be brought in through the API. And all of this stuff can be brought into a tool like Looker Studio. So there is a crazy amount of opportunity to get more data in. But now we've got so many metrics. I mean, this is kind of the fun part. I mean, we literally have confetti of metrics, so many metrics flying everywhere, and yet we still have this kind of ambiguous black hole in a lot of data. And that's not something we can always fix. We just need to know that direct is not direct. One of my favorite examples of like how data should be used is by a guy called Chris Green, who basically talks about this SEO metrics chain. And this is kind of the information that I love, as in, I'm kind of sitting there kind of going, give me all of the information. I want all the information. I want every single bit of it. And if I go into a meeting and say to the client, hey, I have got so many metrics for you. We're going to go through each one of them in the hour and a half that I've got with you. It doesn't usually go particularly well. So, you know, we have to kind of focus on which information is really, really important. So, for instance, Google My Business, you know, we want to know what the rating of it is. Is it a 5-star restaurant? Is it a 4-star, 3-star restaurant? If you've got like 100 different locations, it's really important to know that this one is underperforming because the ratings and reviews on it's really bad. If you want to look at like the kind of order online and other bits and pieces, this sort of information is really important to any business that's a brick and mortar one. We've always kind of had this thing where SEO is impressions and then clicks and then conversions. And we often have this kind of way in which we look at a user journey as being very much, they'll kind of search for it, and then they'll learn about us, and then they'll kind of want to buy it, and then they will buy it. We have kind of a lot of people talking through like SEO funnels and other bits and pieces. But the reality is that most of the time, the way in which we do our journeys, I mean, again, talking VR nerdy stuff, I mean, when I went to buy a MetaQuest headset, I watched all the videos. I went around. I started following people on Twitter. I started engaging with people. I started talking to influencers. I started talking to all of those different people. Google themselves have kind of said that there's kind of a way in which they look at it now, which is this completely different, like, triggers and exploration and evaluation experience. I mean, the way their kind of picture looks is a lot different to how my journey looks, but it is just very much this kind of messy approach to kind of our navigation. Understanding all these touch points is a huge challenge. If you're free later on, listen to Thierry's talk, who's talking on that in great detail. Journeys aren't restricted to your website. I mean, literally, when I came over to Vilnius, I looked around and I was like, I want to find a hotel close to the venue, and then I kind of went, I want to have a 5-star hotel. I want to do all of these kind of searches. And, me as a massive nerd, I will kind of quickly go dum and find it. But then I'll also go off to TripAdvisor. I'll also go off to Instagram to have a look at the pictures of the hotel. I mean, I say that, it depends on how much time I've got. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. Depends on where I'm going. And I'll look around. That's the way in which people navigate nowadays. People very much navigate very differently to how they used to. One of these strange things is the fact that a friend of mine ranked for the sexiest SEO. He told me about this. He was really proud of this. So, the next thing I did was I tried to rank for the sexiest SEO. I actually failed, but I did manage to rank for UK sexiest SEO, which shows two things. One, you can totally manipulate Google search results if you know how. And two, nobody has ever searched for UK sexiest SEO except me. So my point is, and this kind of is strange, is that there's a lot of things which we think is really, really important. We call these vanity metrics. There are things that we kind of get obsessed with, and every client I've ever worked with thinks we need to rank #1 for this particular thing. Cucumbers might seem like a weird example, but I spent a year working for a Norwegian supermarket. Cucumbers was a top-selling product. Every time somebody kind of bought something, they also bought cucumbers with it, which is quite normal because cucumbers are very healthy. They're a great product, and I bet most of you have got cucumber in your fridge. If not, you'll probably add it to your next shopping list. But nobody searched for and bought a cucumber, or a Norwegian, it's called a gurk. So I basically was like trying to figure out what was going on. And so we started looking through, what search term actually was driving the traffic, what search term was actually driving the conversions. And I spoke to people from the UK, and I discovered that in the UK, Prosecco was the one where most people went to Tesco's to buy the product. So they'll buy something they're actually interested in, and then they'll build the order around it. So they'll go, I want some Prosecco. They'll get the Prosecco, then they'll add the cucumber into the cart. But this is the kind of the starting part of the journey. And it's really, really important. Is that my phone? No. But basically, the other side of it is that from an organic traffic point of view, it's very challenging for us to kind of understand the fact that a lot of people might actually end up landing on a product page which the product's actually out of stock. And this sounds like a minor thing, but actually for a supermarket, it was a huge problem. It was one of the biggest problems that we had. It was why was paid traffic converting so much higher than organic, because the paid traffic would always land on products that were in stock, or at least it started to once we fixed the fact that paid was sending to out-of-stock products. So, we could optimize the paid in so much of a better way. But understanding these problems is why conversion rates and organic traffic is really, really important. Jumping back into the metrics. So this is the thing that basically I'm trying to get at. Has anybody seen this picture before? Yeah, a couple of you. Brilliant. This is how planes came back in the Second World War, and some statistician basically went, this is where all the planes get shot. This is where the planes have all been, like, all the bullet holes are. So this is probably where we need to add the armor. But a guy called Abraham Wold basically said, hang on a minute, if these are all the planes that came back with bullet holes, maybe where they were shot with that didn't come back is probably where we need to add the armor. So it was kind of a bit of, it was called survivor bias. But my point is, understanding these numbers is something I think that we really struggle with in a lot of the data. A lot of clients I speak to, there's a lot of misinterpretation of the data. I mean, correlation is one of the things that I absolutely love. And the fact that doner kebab and ibuprofen correlate like perfectly, that makes sense. I go out drinking. In the UK, it's very common for us to go out drinking, end the night with a doner kebab, and then the next day we need ibuprofen. So that makes sense. But what is really weird is doner kebab also correlates perfectly with Wix website. And I have no answer for that, other than the fact that correlation does not necessarily mean causation. And a lot of the time, we find out that this means that, and that means that. And AI and machine learning kind of goes, look, this is something that you should look at. We look at it and kind of go, we have no idea why that works or does work or whatever. So yeah, Donna Kebab's website correlates crazily, no idea why. Bounce rate is one of the most critical measures in web design. So you know how to measure and influence it. When you create a website, it basically is how many people come to one page and then bounce straight out, or at least that's the classic definition. And it's amazing how many times people have this as a big KPI on every report. Like every report has got this as the really, really important one. And that sounds great. But, you know, this is me on my journey. I've booked with Ryanair, and I'm sitting there kind of going, actually, how big is a bag that I need to be able to take with me? And so I click into their website, and it says really clearly, you know, it's this by this. Random fact of the day, it's 2 inches shorter than the bags that I bought for EasyJet, which meant that I had to use a different bag, but that's not the point. My point is that, you know, this, having a high bounce rate is a positive thing, because if I had then had to click around and all the rest of it, and then I had to pick up a phone and I had to email somebody, I had to do more, that would mean that was a bad user experience. But if it's a currently out of stock product and I bounce, that is a bad user experience, because that means that, you know, it's me frustrated and I'm going to go back and search for my Prosecco somewhere else. Site-wide metrics are usually really, really bad for that exact reason, basically. If you look at things like click-through rate, bounce rate, conversion rate, and don't start to segment it in any intelligent way by like product pages, by country. I mean, one weird thing is the fact that when I was working for a Norwegian supermarket, we ranked really well in neighboring countries, but nobody wanted to click into a Norwegian supermarket from the neighboring countries to buy their cucumbers. The point is that these metrics are often really bad unless you start looking at them in isolation and I start to understand it. Don't get me wrong, I have loads of reports with all of these metrics kind of at a sort of site-wide basis. For me to then look at to diagnose, it's almost like if your heart rate goes up, you know, you want to know why, and if you've been running or walking, then it's totally understandable. But it's the reporting side of it that I find kind of frustrating. It's stuff you want to dig into. If you add content to your website, typically bounce rate goes up, conversion rate goes down, but overall sales increases. Because what happens is you start to make people aware of your brand. You start to put content into it, which engages a user down the line. It increases their propensity to buy from you later, but not necessarily right now. Content is often created to make you aware to buy it in 6-12 months time. I mean, Mirador, we're doing a podcast. I'm betting most of the people that listen to the podcast won't go off and buy the tool, but we do it because we want people to engage with the brand, know about the brand, want to be associated with the brand positively, and then if they think that they're choosing a tool, that's when they kind of come into it. I mean, like I say, paid search usually converts better. SEO creates content that's all around the website. So for instance, like further up the funnel, different parts of the channel, different parts of the journey. And basically we can't switch to places that aren't in stock. So, and the other side of it is, you know, whenever you search for a brand now, you have a high chance to convert. So if I search for Tesco.com, it probably means I'm going to go do an online order. And nowadays we find that all of the top results are all paid. So that's why paid search normally converts so much better than organic traffic. And it's amazing how many times I've had to have this argument almost with marketing people where I say, yeah, it's obvious that paid will convert better because this is what we do, but let's look at this in isolation and do this and actually dig into it. Don't get me wrong, if your organic is converting badly, it doesn't mean you haven't got a problem. It just means you need to look at where the problem is rather than look at it at top level. Conversion rate, I'm going to skip past that one. I actually rank now for Clown is on Fire. Don't ask me why, but basically, the BBC Clown on Fire, the reason for that is that I did a podcast where I spoke about the fact that, you know, we broke the homepage and there was a clown on fire on this error page. I rank for some weird stuff nowadays. Right, basically, again, going back to this, all of the metrics that you bring into it, it's really kind of important that you've got the metrics that are important. What I mean by that is that Google Analytics alone has got 354 dimensions and 120 metrics. And as a bit of a test, I actually asked on Twitter, what does WAPMA mean? Does anybody in the room know what it means? All right, 2 people. So yeah, I was expecting 0, but 2 is better than 0. Yeah, like I was going through it, kind of these metrics. There were so many metrics in there that I was like, I don't know what that is. What would I use it for? Would I ever use it? Should I be using this? And part of the thing is often when I look at these things, I mean, you probably know what a North Star metric is. So when I worked at Just Eat, we wanted people to reorder. That was the thing that we wanted. That was how we tested our product. It was the reorder rate within 2 weeks, and that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure was really, really good. And when I'm looking through metrics, I'll often kind of go, is this actually better for this client when I'm creating the reports? When we talk about client reporting, we often want to kind of understand not bounce rate, but is Whopper more important to this person? So yeah, it is the rolling percent of 30-day active users or also 7-day active users, the metrics. But basically, it's used for SaaS customers. It's really, really interesting and fun. So yeah, we can pull all the metrics into Looker Studio. We can do this kind of thing. But some of the times, we look at sort of different metrics in places like Google Search Console. You know, this is an account which I've looked at, and it's got 153,000 green pages. That seems quite good. However, it's got 14.2 million uncrawled pages, and that looks like a technical issue, something which I could probably maybe think to figure out and fix up. So, you know, sometimes that green number looks great, the grey number looks what the actual heck is going on. But, you know, it's fine. What's the worst that can happen? And, you know, we often look into the numbers and look at how many of these things are. And if we look at this as a site level, it again becomes an issue. So we want to start to kind of refine the questions. So if we've got a lot of not indexed pages, is that a problem? Yes or no? I don't know. But basically, how many of our product pages are indexed? And that's the question that's really, really important to me as the SEO guy. And we can do this using sitemaps. We can say, you know, product pages XML sitemap, and we can look at like how many of those pages are indexed versus not pages. By the way, these are modified screenshots. They're not actually a client of mine or anything like that, just to let you know. So I don't own the site, mysite.com. But basically, we can look at this data in a slightly more intelligent way consistently, and then this means that we can start to really analyze what we can do to fix stuff up. And if we do have 820 not indexed pages, why not? We can start to dig into it and go through it. And there's loads of things that we can actually do with that. And we can also align things like the impressions over the top of it to start to explain to clients and internal people why this is really important we fix this up. If this many pages creates this many impressions, this many pages will create that many impressions. So it's kind of a great bit of maths that we can easily do. Right. And yeah, and looking into it, like why aren't the pages indexed? And then we can start to go through which ones are the ones that we can fix, which ones are the Google problems, which ones are total, I don't know what that means. For instance, you know, the discovered currently not indexed is a kind of problem where we go, what can we do to really fix that? And even Google themselves are a bit like, yeah, don't worry about it. You know, it'll fix itself eventually. But we also know that internal linking and page speed and other bits and pieces massively improves it. So there is opportunities. hreflang is a good example as well. You can find this information in Google Search Console. You can see how much traffic is going to the wrong part. I mentioned before that I'm a massive Data Studio fan, and I actually build these, Looker Studio now. I'm very terrible at calling it the old name, not trying to sell my book. But basically, this actually shows you how many people are going into the wrong part of the website by impressions, by clicks, and other bits and pieces. And, you know, if I kind of see a problem, I'm the type of nerd that will kind of go, ooh, let me build a quick dashboard to have a look at how much of a problem this is and then share this with the customers. And it works really easily. As I mentioned before, when I go in and present people, this is kind of the effect that can sometimes happen. Basically, I can actually find that I'm kind of really excited about the hreflang implementation and the impressions going to the wrong places. I look through these 22 pages of data, and I do find that very quickly, this is kind of the effect that can sometimes happen. You know, you can find that the account manager in the corner, the customer in the corner is looking at his iWatch because he's sort of a message from WhatsApp and stuff. And random fact, the guy in the corner is genuinely called Phil Collins. It's very cool. So yeah, going back to the SEO metrics chain, what people really care about is transactions and revenue. And I think this is the key part of it. We kind of, as a SEO guy, a digital marketer, nerds, we kind of want to look at all of the potential problems. We want to look at everything. They want to look at basically effort and reward. It's like, what have you done? And what's been the impact? I'm a big fan of well-designed dashboards. I've been to loads of talks on it all. I've got books on it. Turns out I can't design for anything. And I'm really bad at it. So I do take a lot of advice and I do copy other bits and pieces. But, things that I really like us to do is add in the analysis, for instance. Like, we have a list of things and you can just chuck this into Google Sheets. So this is the stuff that we're doing. This is why this has happened. You don't need to ask me if something's gone up or down because I've put a little note in it. And you can pull this into Looker Studio. See, I got it right that time. Looker Studio, and it's really simple to do. And even better, what you can do is you can create a form which will then be pulled in, and then in that the Looker Studio, you can link to the form. And this means that it's so easy for somebody like Thierry, who's kind of helping report to clients and people, to be able to go in and kind of go, oh, I'll add a quick note in there, click, job done. And there it is. And you can add in the details, the categories, so you can make sure it appears on the right part, the right page, and everything. So it's really, really good fun. And you can also do the same thing with like a page or a help page or something on a Looker Studio report, where you have a link which says, do you want to change anything in this report? Maybe you want to hide something from it. Maybe you want to add something. Maybe you want to add warp or more. And things like that. Again, with the designing, there's a great website called coolers.co where you can find a compatible palette. So again, you don't have to use the standard, very boring colors which come with Looker Studio. And the advantage with kind of having a nice designed one is people seem to respect and use them more if they feel like it's a custom designed thing they want to go back to. You can also do something really smart where you kind of go, I will extract from the image, and then you can just kind of upload an image. And so you can upload whichever image you want to, and then it will build out a palette for you, which is really smart and lazy. And people think I spend a lot longer doing design work than I actually do. I'd like to be efficient, not lazy, efficient. The other thing is, like, we are experiencing a huge increase in privacy. As a man who actually doesn't mind basically sacrificing almost all of my privacy in exchange for cheap deals on stuff I'm interested in, when I browse the web, I actually want deals and things that I'm interested in. So I'm actually almost against privacy, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but give me a minute. The fact that GCLID is being removed in places like Apple, GCLID is the thing which hooks up the keyword data and the price data and makes bidding much more efficient. So instead of getting targeted, high-quality ads, we're going to get more and more generic ads. The internet is going to be full of low-quality, poor ads. I mean, as a man browsing on Twitter, I get adverts for very dodgy stuff, which doesn't interest me whatsoever. I used to get really cool adverts for like toys and things that I'm interested in, like clickers and headphones and stuff, and VR goggles. It's really, really important that we start to kind of understand the fact that people don't want to sell their data in bulk. The EU have started to kind of push back against Google Analytics. In many countries, they basically turned around and said, yeah, we're not going to use Google Analytics because the EU has said that they don't want your data being sent off to America. This was part of the push for GA4, by the way. This is why GA4's come in kind of a hard-rushed way. And I'm going to be honest, I'm still not a huge fan of GA4. I can't kind of find all the buttons that I used to. But it is meaning that we are in a world now where privacy is really, really kind of important to users. Everybody knows that, you get cookie pop-ups on every website. Now, nobody knows, except people in this room, nobody else knows what cookies actually are. You turn around to your mum, your friends, down the pub, anybody, it's like, do you kind of go, should we accept all cookies? And they kind of go, I don't know, I don't care. All I want to do is read the article on whatever it is that I clicked in from the Discover feed to kind of learn about VR goggles or whatever it is. Nobody cares about these things. And, we're in a world now where I stole this slide from somebody yesterday, and he's talking about this cookieless future. It's really, really important. On the Sun website, when you click into it, you can actually choose which cookies you want to accept. And you go in there, and it says 399 vendors. I mean, this, by the way, is not unusual. When I go through a few websites, there's a ton of these cookies. Okay? And I'm like struggling with it, and it's just totally crazy where I go, I start looking through it, and I'm like, oh, I know that one. That's Google. That's Facebook. Who on earth else are you selling all of my data to? And normally, if I click into the Sun, it's because I violently disagree with the article. But if I'm being, what's the word for it, typed by the type of article I read on the Sun, it makes me sound like a very dodgy right-wing person, and I'm not, I promise. My point is that this is not good. The other side that was interesting is if you reject all the cookies, the page size goes down by 30%. It goes down from 9 megabytes down to 6 megabytes. And quite honestly, if I'm browsing the web, that's a lot when I'm on a per-page basis. Oh, one thing you can do, by the way, is you can look at like the page speed across websites, which is a really easy, quick thing to do. There's this thing called the Google Chrome dashboard thing, and you can just go plug it in, click a button, and creates this. And I'm actually disappointed to find out the Sun is weirdly very, very fast, and it's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought that 9 megabyte load was going to be quite terrible. Okay, all right, putting it all together. So you have to figure out what is actually important to the business. Now, I say this because every single business I've worked for has been different. And one of the worst things is you get a stock dashboard, you plug it in, you give it to the client, and the client goes, yeah, brilliant, thank you, never looks at it again. So I've worked for SaaS companies, I've worked for supermarkets, I've worked for media companies, I've worked for everyone. Everybody has a different metric of what's really, really important to them. 9 times out of 10, it's about money, and you want to know what it is that's important. You kind of want to know about this kind of ambiguous data. If you've got 50% of it that's direct and you can't figure out what it really is, figure out ways to kind of really kind of clean that up a bit more. Let's figure out ways to kind of get more data in so as we can start to tell the story better. Are you having a lot of interactions, transactions, things that are offline and everywhere else? Go for that. Report smart. Don't tell somebody 399 metrics or however many metrics there are in Google Analytics. There is nobody that will ever care about some metrics. And if you do start reporting on all these metrics, don't say it went down, it went up. Say, if you can, why. Are you looking into it? Is it important? Is it seasonality? Respect privacy. I know I kind of argue with myself here, but basically, try to understand what you do need from customers. Try to understand how to make it a better user experience at the same time as not kind of selling their data to 399 different providers. You can use the data to fix and kind of report on problems. So if you do spot a problem, like I say, if it's non-index pages of the product pages, then at least you start to kind of use the data in an intelligent way and make dashboards to track it. All of this data is available in some way for an API or something where you can kind of keep checking on it week in, week out, figure it all out. And yeah, if you want to know more, give me a shout. Have we got questions? All right. Okay, reporting for dummies. Yeah, that's a great question, actually. When I was working at the BBC, one of the things that they did really well was they created a report, because the analytics package was, can't remember the name of it, but basically it was bought by someone else. It was brilliant for us. You had to spend hours learning SQL to build out the reporting and other bits and pieces. It was really cool. But it was really badly presented, so it was like you have to know what the metrics were. So somebody created basically a report which worked really well on iPads, because all the BBC execs had these iPads, and it was, it started to explain what this metric meant, and it started to explain that this should be good and things like that. So, when I design reports for clients, I will make sure I do 3 things. One is to make sure I tell them the source of the data. So if it comes in from Google Analytics, I make sure it's got it there. 2, I make sure I say what the actual information is. If it's like weekly unique visitors or something like that, then I'll explain what that really actually means. And thirdly, I'll make sure that, we kind of have the ability to kind of make sure we're using the right graphs, the right colors, and so color schemes for negative, positive, bits and pieces like that. So that's kind of really, really important. So yeah, basically explaining reports is really, really important. Is direct something you could solve with server log files? Yes and no. So server log files, in case you don't know, are a shit show, a terrible way to try and analyze a lot of data. The reason behind that is historically a lot of SEO people would kind of go, oh yeah, we're going to use the log files to kind of diagnose things. And this is the sort of thing we used to say back in 2000. And now, if you want a log file, it's terabytes of data, and it's really challenging to get hold of and analyze. Now, the good news is that this kind of situation has improved slightly, because things like Cloudflare can plug into all sorts of tools, and there's tools which will allow you to kind of really smartly analyze this information. So for a long time, log files were a bit of a black hole, but the same information that gets recorded, the refer information that gets recorded, also goes into like log files. So if it's in your analytics package, it's probably there. If it's not, then it won't be. But log files allows you to kind of do some weird, deeper analysis on bits and pieces. But it's a bit like, but it also misses out information, because it doesn't take into account things like cookies and unique identifiers. And if people share IP addresses, you can see some very weird things. So it's better to use analytics and stay away from log files, except when you're solving crawling problems. That's when log files becomes really, really good. For user problems, it's not so great. Is there a way to measure how much awareness influence conversion eventually since awareness? Is there? I'm not going to answer that one. Thierry, do you want to answer that one? Thierry's going to be talking about that one later on. Please ask Thierry that question because he'll love it. But basically, it's a massive challenge. We know that we can see the impact of. I'm trying to have an example product which I've worked on in the past where everyone's talking about a pair of shoes, and you can see the sale of the shoes going up because Instagram and I am an old school guy who probably shouldn't be on TikTok. It's something which I don't fully understand. I've got 6 videos on there. 2 of them are dogs. My point is that we see these things blow up. We see these things, and influencers have a massive amount of influence, and we can often see this sort of thing happening. And we can see the impact of like news coverage and other bits and pieces by so many different ways. But it is really challenging. And like I say, one of the things that I've always done is in Google Analytics historical is if we had great news coverage about something. So when Just Eat first started selling KFC, the world went crazy for it. And I'm kind of sitting there kind of going, seriously, this is like not the biggest news. Have you not heard what's happening with Kate? And I'm sort of kind of going like, why this is massive, and it made a significant impact on our traffic. So I put all of these things into Google Analytics. I track all of these things in Google Sheets so as I can then kind of cross-correlate these things later on. So it's a lot more challenging than it sounds, and Thierry's got much more smarter methods, so come see him straight after this talk. Is it normal for Google to take too long to index pages? Yes. Depends. It's a really interesting thing. At the moment, Google's got a problem. They'll say this because of AI. AI is great, but I can pump out 10,000 pages in a couple of days, basically. I kind of set it on autopilot, it publishes it out to a blog, Google comes along and kind of tries to index it all. The internet is full. I mean, when I say the internet's full, it's kind of got unlimited storage, but Google's got only so much capacity to crawl everything. The more the rubbish that you've got on your website, the more unfocused it is, the worse your internal links is, the harder it is for Google to crawl your website, especially if you've got large, slow websites. So generally speaking, you can get a good-sized site indexed in about a week without any problem at all. But I've had interesting experiences where Google's been weirdly slow for no reason whatsoever, and also weirdly fast, where it's like happened in 24 hours that entire new site has been indexed. So worst answer is, from an SEO person, it depends, but it truly does. What is definitely out and what to focus on in the future? Oh, God. You're talking to the guy that basically thought that that the Stadia controller was a good idea. That's the Google's controller thing for PlayStation type thing. But so basically, I'm the worst person to answer this question. What I would say is that with the rise of AI and with the rise of everything, you've got to kind of say, why should somebody come to your website? Now, I say this because most of the time I'm looking around, there's no reason for me to go to any website if Google can summarize it for me, or SGE or AI can summarize it for me quite quickly. I've become a bit of a convert to a lot of the AI stuff. But point is that if somebody can find the answer quickly and easily without going into your website, if you want people to come into your website, provide a reason, provide a tool, provide something interesting, in depth, high quality, brand awareness, depth is the simple answer. In terms of the tools and other bits and pieces, I'm really excited by a lot of the AI stuff. I'm the guy that is plugging everything into AI to kind of make sure I do analysis stuff. Like, I'm looking at a load of data at the moment, and I kind of said, show me what's interesting in there. I hate calling it AI, it's machine learning, but machine learning now is freely available to everybody, and it's suddenly changed the way in which we can do things. Copilot and Microsoft is built into everything, so we're about to see some really cool stuff. Yeah, I'm still very much old school in the fact that I think the basics are absolutely vital to focus on, but it's just kind of keeping your eyes open and listening to people. Like the keynote yesterday was an eye-opener. AI-generated content, pushing quantity up and up. See, I'm actually a fan of AI content as long as the quality's there. So, I mean, what I'm is the worst writer ever. I've worked with great writers who I kind of throw a load of words at. They rewrite it for me. And it turns out that AI can sort of do the same thing. So if I want to write a blog post about something I'm talking about, I'll throw a lot of the words into the AI, and it will kind of rewrite them into something that's better. However, if you leave it on autopilot, it's basically rewriting everything that's out there in a worse way. So um, I think it's really dangerous that if people use it in the right way, it's great. But there's so many, we call them affiliate bros, basically. The people that basically create low quality niche websites, expect to kind of have a lot of low quality content to rank really well for a lot of the long tail stuff. And it works really quite well until it crashes down. But expecting Google to be able to filter through all of this is kind of quite a challenge. All right, Looker Studio, the best way to analyze multi-platform data is GMB, GSC, social media, info tools. Yeah, it really is brilliant, normally, but it's unreliable. I mean, it's a free tool, at least Looker Studio is. It's a free tool that's really, really, really good, except for the fact that, like, I'm in a WhatsApp group, and today there's been about 20 people complaining it's broken again. You're trying to blend data together, do all sorts of smart stuff, and it will just break. So, yeah, it is a big challenge, basically, to kind of really get to know the data in that way in Looker Studio. And, I mean, talking about it with some friends of mine for client reporting, I'm like, it's definitely the best tool ever, except at the the start of every month when everyone's using it and it starts to go really, really slowly. And, you know, it's something which, like I say, wrote a book on it, love it, absolutely brilliant, also unreliable and patchy, and, you know, so there's a reason why I'll often export information out of it and using different sort of information sources. Cool. Is there any more questions? All right, come grab me afterwards if anybody wants to chat about anything else.